Hello, I'm Sam and welcome to another WolfWare review. Today I'm looking at Hitman Absolution by IO Interactive. Since everyone is playing the new Hitman game, I figured why not look at one of the previous outings in the series. I played this game when it first released and I have pretty fond memories of it, so let's see if it held up. The basic premise of Absolution is Agent 47 is sent to kill his former handler, who, while dying, tells him to protect this teenage girl. And fulfilling this, he betrays his agency and begins to look for answers as to who is looking for this girl, presumably so he can kill them. The gameplay is a pretty good entry for the stealth genre, with every possible advantage of that. Pretty smart AI, disguises, lethal and non-lethal methods, ways to hide bodies, and most importantly I feel ways to just kill the shit out of everything.
See, what I like about Hitman is that you can set the game to easy and you can just... Don't be afraid. And you? Is the party going on up here, guys?
The gameplay of this game, as evidenced, changes depending on what difficulty you've got it at. On easy, each enemy that has a weapon will be awfully bad at killing you, and will be easily fooled as they won't really search for you any further than 1 meter in any direction. On the higher difficulties, AI will see through disguises easier and you'll have to use a lot of skill and wit to reach your target, with the aid of a few distractions here and there. Though I'm sure there is some way to take a run and gun attitude to the higher difficulties if you're particularly skilled enough. The cover mechanics are standard for a third-person shooter like this, and it works pretty well in this game. There's also Agent 47's instinct abilities. You can use this to detect enemy patterns, see special ways to kill targets, and you can use it for the slow-motion shooting mechanic that I very rarely used, and often to my own detriment. The game comes with a built-in leaderboard system that rewards you by difficulty, path chosen, among other things. I'm not sure if I particularly enjoy seeing that I'm bad at the game at the top corner of my screen at any given time, but it is an interesting way to garner competition among your friends. Oftentimes at the end of a level, the game will say that you've unlocked upgrades. The point of these things is lost on me because as far as I know, there's no real way of seeing what you've unlocked, and you don't particularly activate them. If someone knows what these damn things really accomplish, please let me know. All hand-to-hand combat in the game comes in the form of quick time events, which doesn't particularly annoy me since I don't do it that often, but there are some instances, like in a boss battle, where it felt kind of boring to sit through. There is something to be said for the variety of maps in this game. Sometimes you're going to be in a pretty claustrophobic environment looking desperately for a hiding place, and sometimes you'll be in a rather large area where any number of disguises may work. Speaking of disguises, they are one of the inconsistencies I've found within the game. Every disguise is kind of annoying to use because actual people with the job description of your disguise may recognize that you're not one of them. I'm not exactly certain if each gardener has the telepathic ability to know I'm not one of them, but I don't particularly understand it. For each target there are multiple methods of killing them. For instance, the first target I killed by obtaining a police officer disguise and then dropping a ton of wood and shit on him. Meanwhile, Dalen did the same mission and just shot him as soon as he saw him, and I can see at least 3 to 4 other ways of killing him, so there is pretty decent variety. I'm playing this on the PC and the game runs at a pretty stable 60 frames per second, and it's pretty amazing looking while doing it. This game looks pretty gloomy, but that's not necessarily bad, since it has some bright sections that are nice looking too. For instance, the very first mission of the game has you walking through a mansion that I think is pretty vibrant. Probably what stands out most for me is that these graphics look great for the time the game came out in 2012, especially the crowds. The gun sounds are pretty good, Agent 47's voice actor is pretty good, the voice actor for this deformed Mr. Potato Head is pretty funny. The other ones do pretty well, and I need to give props to the random NPC voices because their dialogues are pretty amazing throughout. The music meshes pretty well and the main theme of the game is pretty awesome, so I suggest checking that one out at the very least. To be honest, the story felt like background noise to me. Not to say that it's bad, as it was interesting enough to keep me playing, but I didn't find it interesting enough to actually really pay attention to. The game suffers from a lack of really interesting targets, excepting of certain few that seem nearer to the end of the game. Like, all the information you get about your first actual target in the game is that he's called the King of Chinatown and that he likes his car. And that's pretty much it. That's where his story begins and ends. King of Chinatown, likes car, crime boss, useless info. I really enjoyed Potato Head Reject. The nuns were weird but ultimately pointless, and other than that everything sort of melted together. Spoilers ahead. Skip to this time if you don't want to get certain pieces of the game spoiled. I enjoyed the desert part with Lenny, and kind of enjoyed the semi-reveal that everything that 47 has done since the end of Hitman Blood Money was just a way of destroying the cloning project that created 47 in the first place. Everything else felt pretty inconsistent for some reason. I don't have much to say about the story beyond saying that it has some inconsistencies, but it is just interesting enough that you won't be bored out of your mind while trying to finish the game. Semi-mediocre story aside, the gameplay was pretty fun and the game is pretty, so it works out. I had fun carrying out each assassination and interrogation whether or not I did it particularly stealthily. I believe that at its current price point of $20 on Steam, it's a pretty decent buy and maybe a good entry into the series for a newcomer, though I think that you may want to check out Blood Money first. You'll get plenty of bang for your buck if you play through this. The stealth can be the perfect mixture of challenging and rewarding, and really the game can be hilarious if you take a creative approach to the situation, or just set the game on easy and replay some of the missions like I did. The game may not be as open as its predecessors or even its successor, but linearity made this game a lot easier to replay again and again, which I think is worth it, so go ahead and grab that if it sounds good to you. Meanwhile, I'll be trying to figure out how to push everyone into this hole. And I'll see you in the next WolfWare review. Thanks for watching all the way through, I appreciate it. And please, if you enjoyed this, leave a like, a comment if you have some feedback, and subscribe if you want our content on a semi-regular basis. If you like this, take a look at me and Dalen's review of the Sega Game Gear, or watch my review of Fallout 4 here, or Dalen's review of Dark Cloud. See you next time.